Well, here we go.
Okay, Craig Bartlett, welcome to the Aaron Meta Show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's great
Good morning.
Yeah, good evening from here as well. So, yeah, how have you been doing?
Really good. I think 2015 is going to be the busiest year of my whole life. So.
Oh, tell me about it. I mean, for me, I've started a new job recently, so I've got this new job that I'm training into now, and then I got this radio show, and so I think we're all going to be very busy in 2015. To be quite honest with you.
Good.
Yeah, and my country's going to go for a general election on, so basically we've got a lot to talk about in 2015 ourselves. So, but anyway, we're going to talk about Hey Arnold once again, and I know Justin Shankaro did a really, really good job on the last anniversary special, but everyone was saying they would like to me to interview Craig again, and Craig has generously given us his busy time, so I want to thank him very much for coming on to answer your questions once again. Now, the questions I had to do in a bit of a rush because I've just been so busy with so many other things currently going on right now. So I did say if you could tweet the Aaron Meta Show rather than basically sending an email, because I just had no time to send up an email box, and this was probably the easiest way I could possibly do it. Plus, I can favorite them as well, so I can go through them all one by one as well. And actually, for the first time in doing one of these interviews, Great Ballot, we can put names to questions. So it'd be very good to put some real names to people and that. So we haven't got as many questions as we did before because, again, we did do this in a rush. So, again, apologies for that. But we do have some very good questions here and definitely a lot to talk about. But obviously, before we go into that, obviously we had a very big tragedy in our Hey Arnold community recently, and that was the loss of Steve Vexton. And a lot of people have been paying their condolences over this year. Craig, you were at a memorial for him as well. I mean, if we could, just out of condolences and also out of respect, I mean, if we could talk about Steve for a couple of minutes. I mean, how did you meet him, and how did he come to be part of the Hey Arnold crew?
Steve and Joe and Saldahair came together when in 1990 I was working on Rugrats, which we were just starting it. It hadn't gone on the air yet. We only had a pilot, and Paul Germain hired me to be the story editor. And as soon as we got going, we thought we should get pitches from writers. And Paul had gone to UCLA with both Joe and Steve, and he said, "Let me bring in Joe and Steve. They're awesome." And they were. They came in and they pitched what became the B show of the first episode of Rugrats. I can't remember what happens. The ball goes over a fence. But Steve and Joe, I met them then. So from 1990, I've known Steve, and he's just one of those people. He was super talented, great writer, a lot of fun. We, God, I had so many laughs with Steve. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And when you were going towards, developing Hey Arnold, and Steve became the voice of Oscar, I mean, how did that come about?
Since we all met on Rugrats, our boss at Rugrats was Gabor Chupo. Gabor Chupo and Arlene Klasky are the founders and owners of Klasky Chupo. And Gabor is from Hungary, and he has that wonderful accent, which is just Steve doing Oscar as Steve trying to imitate Gabor. And what we thought was funny about Gabor's accent was sentences tended to end, they'd go down at the end. So he'd be like, "Susie, make me a sandwich." And, his voice would go down at the end. And so I know that's, we all do really lame Gabor impersonations. He's been impersonated on so many shows. He's Dr. Nick on The Simpsons. And he's a bunch of, he's everywhere. But anyway, we thought it would be really funny to have, and not Hungarian, we made him from Czechoslovakia, which is now the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
that was basically, we just thought it'd be really funny if Oscar and Susie were Gabor and Arlene. And what's not true about, Gabor Chupo is not a gambling addict and a bum. He's a really talented and funny and cool guy. So
Yeah.
Oscar is nothing like Gabor Chupo. It was just Steve trying to do a funny voice.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, all the boarders in the boarding house have to be kind of losers, and it was really important that the boarders all be having various difficulties because Arnold is so wise. He's like the grown-up, and all the boarders are like children.
Yeah. He had a massive influence writing several of the Hey Arnold episodes.
Totally.
Yeah.
He wrote as many episodes as anybody else, and his stories were great. Some of my favorite episodes were written by Steve.
Yeah. I mean, out of your opinion, where did you think he got his imagination from and his drive?
Steve and I shared a love of a lot of the same movies. And he grew up watching a ton of TV, which is an interesting thing to think about because Matt Groening also grew up watching a ton of TV. And I always found that kind of funny about both of those guys was they were just TV addicts. They watched so many shows in the 1960s. And I kind of didn't. I didn't watch much TV as a kid. And then there was a period when I was a student and in college and in my 20s where I didn't watch TV at all. I didn't even have a TV for many years just because I kind of was interested in other stuff at that time. And so I always found it kind of cool that Steve knew so many movies and TV shows. He would quote from he would say, for example, if you're out of ideas for a show, just take a look at the whole history of the Andy Griffith Show, for example, and just look at what happens in those episodes, and it'll give you ideas. So he would refer to like Chaplin's movies like City Lights, and he would refer to the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah, so he had this wealth of knowledge amongst television, and obviously you mentioned what he borrowed from before. Can you think of any highlights where he would come up with an idea and it would just glue together so well? Like, say, for example, I'm trying to think of a good example. I think it wasn't. The Bugs Bunny, the What's Up Arnold episode. Obviously, that was your idea. But was there ever like a?
It's true. I was usually quoting Warner cartoons.
Yeah.
And Steve, well, for example, the one with Harold and Big Patty.
Yeah.
When Harold first falls for Patty, and then in the end he bails because he under peer pressure he pretends that he doesn't care about her and says, there's nothing, I don't care about her at all, go away. And then at the end when he was supposed to meet her for lunch, and he comes into the cafeteria and Stinky and Sid are making fun of him and they're making fun of Patty, and he finally just like blows up and he just yells and announces to the whole lunchroom that he likes Patty. That's straight from the 50s movie Marty.
Oh, really?
And Ernest Borgnine got an Oscar for that performance, and I remember Steve saying, I just want to do a Marty story with Harold. In other words, and that's the way we would usually do it. We'd be talking about favorite scenes from TV and movies. We'd just say, I love how in Apocalypse Now this happens. Or we'd say, I love how in, The Wizard of Oz this happens. And we would just try to find a way to kind of make it our own, in which I think probably, most modern entertainment, you could say, how they say there's only like 6 stories and just keep getting told over and over again.
Oh, wow.
That's definitely true. And we just do. We try to think about what we like about a story. Usually it's like emotional resonance. That scene where Harold defends Patty is incredibly emotional and cool and kind of about all the challenges of being a kid and peer pressure and people, trying to make a coward out of you and turn you into a jerk. And Harold, he fights back, and it's so redeeming for him and so cool. That's it. Harold was a great character because his redemption from the start of the series when he was just a kind of a two-dimensional bully, and then getting turned into more and more of a rich character was so fun, and Steve and I completely agreed about that. We said, this will be so fun to redeem Harold.
Yeah,
over
and plus with
years.
the combined effort of Justin Shankaro as well.
Justin's performance was so hilarious, and exactly like he started as a kid actor. The way that he would cry was so funny, and so it was great too. There's a warmth to Harold as soon as we got into it, you realize that even though he's a bully and he could pound Arnold, and in real danger to Arnold at the very start, the pilot was the one where he had 24 hours to live. And so, yeah, he starts this nemesis, and it was so clear as we got into it that it was so fun for Harold to be, kind of secretly sensitive and,
Yeah.
kind of just the whole thing about how he was even smart, but he was just too lazy to be smart. And he's a great character.
I mean,
Yes,
if I can
in
make
those
it.
early years, it was me and Steve, Joe and Solitaire, Joe Purdy, developing that character. And then, of course, we added more writers as we went. But in the beginning, it was me and Steve and Joe.
Yeah. Would you say through his writing he managed to put in some influence and and also a directional role as well? Because obviously it's through the Harold outburst and everything. Would you say what he wrote, kind of also dictated through to the character performance itself?
Yeah, the performance is so important. I would say for me, recording the actors, the moment that it goes from script to recorded performance is the most exciting part of the whole process. And I loved going to the sessions, and I would direct, but Steve was always there. Steve and Joe and whoever was on the writing team always came to the session. And so, for sure, we would workshop that stuff with the kids and the adults. But, when I think about it, mostly it was the way the kid characters developed in kind of real time each week as we'd go in to record. So, yeah, we were all in on that discussion.
How did you feel when you found out he was going to be doing an episode of The Simpsons?
Oh, that was pretty cool. He did that with Peter Gaffney, and Pete and Steve and Joe and I all. Pete was around even for season 1 of Rugrats too, so that was definitely, just old friends doing something together. That was cool.
Mind me asking, how did you find out about his death?
Joe and Solitaire called me.
Yeah.
Joe found out first, and so Joe and I talked. God, we talked a lot that week, man. We had a great memorial for Steve.
Yeah.
Later that month, we went to the Smokehouse, which is a restaurant in Burbank, which is kind of a legendary place. Frank Sinatra used to go there, and so it's an older, kind of cool old restaurant where people. It used to be a real power place where people went to make deals. I don't know how much it is that way now, but it's right next to the TV studios and Warner Brothers, and so it's a total like showbiz, old-fashioned like Frank Sinatra restaurant. And Steve loved it, and I loved it, and we used to go down there and talk about stories and stuff. And we had a whole room in the Smokehouse and a bunch of food, and I don't know, there were about 50 people came, and it was really nice. It was mostly, almost everybody was there had worked with Steve on Rugrats or Hey Arnold, and Jim Lang came, and he brought his keyboard, and I brought a guitar, and we sang 3 songs. We sang The Simple Things, and what's it called? My Last Bow, the Dino song that goes, I once was king, and one more. Oh, I know, we did Look Up, that was
one
from the end of Arnold's Crummy Day, or The List is what we ended up calling that show. And it was great because all 3 of them, it was a really, what's even picking out those 3 songs is a funny story because Steve was famous for, taking credit for everything. And he would basically say that he wrote a song, and then Joe would say, you know what, actually, I mostly wrote that song, and Steve was just there. And then with My Last Bow, Lang said the same thing. He said, yeah, I kind of wrote those lyrics too. I had always thought that those were all Steve's, and The Simple Things, to me, of course he was in on that because the 2 of us wrote The Simple Things one night. We stayed late and drank beers and wrote that song till about midnight, and then we left a message on Jim Lang's machine where I played it over the phone. And in the morning, Lang calls me and goes, that's really great. You'll have to sing it to me again so I can actually hear what you're saying. It's such a crap recording on the phone, on the message machine. But, that's why I wanted to do The Simple Things because that actually is probably my very favorite memory of working with Steve was just the 2 of us completely agreeing about something and and having fun, you know, because songwriting is super fun
Yeah.
when it goes right. But anyway, so it was a great memorial. A lot of funny stories from people. Everybody had something funny to say about Steve, and you know, just the good and the bad. And I think that's what it's all about. It's like it takes a lot of give and take to do this kind of work, and there's a lot of fighting, and there's a lot of bad times. And so when you get together like that, it just made me realize how much good times we'd all had, and it was a great memorial.
Yeah. How did you feel about the fans' response and the outgoing condolences, and also the I think there was an obituary as well in the Huffington Post. I mean, how did you feel about the response to when he passed away?
It was amazing. It's amazing. It's funny in these last couple of years being reminded more often than it used to be. You know, we're reminded constantly now how much of an impression the show made on people who are, mostly adults now. Of course, I'm glad to know that there's kids discovering Hey Arnold all the time. But when you think about people who were like Arnold age kids watching it on Nickelodeon now being in their mid-20s, that's a whole other factor in the fandom, and it's important. And
Cool.
So, the fact that was covered so well and so many people took note, it was great. It was great for me. So much has changed since 10 years ago. I mean, now in the Facebook era, all I had to do was post that picture and write something about Steve, and there were, hundreds of replies, and then that got picked up, and I think the Onion ran it first. What's their thing called? The AV Club. The AV Club ran it first, and they called me. I talked to the editor at the AV Club, and he got some quotes from me and put that in his story, and then the HuffPost picked it up from there. So,
Cool.
It's amazing how I just post something on Facebook, and it becomes part of the story now. The other thing that's really intense to me is how different news is now than 10 years ago. News now is really kind of weird. There's a lot of kind of cut and paste and copying of stuff, and so I really try hard when something. I realized like that was like turning into a story. I just thought, man, I just want to, make sure at the source that the information's good and correct, because it's just going to get copied and pasted out into the world. And
is.
That's the state of modern journalism now.
Yeah, I tell you what, this these interviews that we've done over the last 4 years, they've ended up on YouTube videos, and sometimes they end up like splicing them. So basically, it ends up basically being one
it's
thing.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. It's like they say.
All I would say is anybody who's getting all their news from the internet, boy, take it with a grain of salt.
But it's like
not all true.
I had one criticism from someone who tweeted me saying that I talked too much during the interview, and but then I said, well, whereabouts did you hit? Whereabouts did you listen to the interview? And then he gave me a link to a YouTube channel which had basically sliced in into 15-minute blocks, because you're not allowed unless you get permission from YouTube to basically make bigger web videos.
Right, yeah.
So basically he basically squeezed it into like this 50 like an hour and a half of like talking. It's like this 15-minute block, and I'm like, what? I mean, kudos to him trying, but it's it wasn't. Yeah. But anyway,
it's hard to get to the bottom of stuff. You really do have to. People need to check their sources, and they need to. Journalism's going to have to try hard to survive, because it's getting pretty crazy.
It is getting pretty crazy.
Infotainment.
Yeah. I mean, to finish off, Steve, he's going to live long in Hey Arnold legacy, and he's going to live along in our hearts as well, and along with the Hey Arnold fans as well, because he's just been such a big part of our childhood, and we really will miss him. So
yeah, I know. Well, I'm glad we talked about it.
Absolutely. Well, I wouldn't dare go any further without talking with it, because obviously such a big event of the year. So. Okay, so it is supposed to be a Christmas special, so let's try and lighten up a little bit. So, we're now going to go to the questions, and I want to thank everybody for giving questions, and also giving names as well. So now I can put names to questions instead of basically seeing who's basically asked the most common question and then just basically answering it. So, let's get on with these names to questions, and let's start with the wonderful name of Elf340. It's like, yeah. Okay. He asks. Actually, I'll tell you what. I'll be fair. It's a guy called Omar, because he's put it in the in there. So his question is, what's the current status of Skyrat?
Oh, Skyrat. All that stuff is going great. I've been back in development with Nickelodeon for a couple of years now, and Skyrat was the project that I first brought to them as something original.
Mm-hmm.
And we basically we spent about the next year basically putting a deal together, because all my stuff I'm doing for Nickelodeon is kind of attached into one deal, so it all kind of had to get figured out, especially considering I had a pre-existing deal from the 90s on Hey Arnold. So all that stuff got figured out. We developed it as a TV show first, but the pilot was so long and such a lot of story to tell, there's a lot of backstory in Skyrat, that we decided to expand it into a TV movie. So I'm now developing it as a TV movie script, and it's going fine. I think I'll wait till the script is further along before I kind of give any details, just because I don't. It's funny, like some of this stuff you just don't want to jinx it.
No, I can understand that absolutely.
But it's I'm happy to say that I really like the story, and I'm enjoying working on it, and I hope in this coming year to have the story all completely figured out and be in production.
Yeah, actually, this is interesting. I mean, how's Nickelodeon for you changed since when you left in the early 2000s to coming back now?
It's a bunch of different people, but what's cool too is that at the studio in Burbank, where I was working on Hey Arnold, I see a lot of old familiar faces, so it's kind of cool. Some people have actually managed to stay at Nickelodeon all this time. I've seen people there that have been there for 20 years now, which is kind of incredible. Imagine having a job where you could stay put for that long. It's very cool and very rare nowadays. And from my experience, it's been really different. The whole last decade, I would go from place to place and work for a couple of years. I worked for about 5 years at Henson working on Dinosaur Train, though, so it's not like it. I was constantly moving around, but that's kind of the nature of my work.
Yeah.
And when something new starts like Skyrat, part of the reason these things take so long to become a reality is that's kind of the nature of I'm a freelancer coming in, and I've got several other projects going on at the same time, and so when it goes slowly, I'm actually kind of cool with that, because I'm trying to finish other stuff and get it out of the way so I can really concentrate. Like it'll be a while till I'm really in the clear anyway, because I'm working on a couple other things right now. And so I hope actually that we develop the Skyrat script over the next year, and I can kind of slowly get it going, as well as the other stuff I'm doing with Nick.
Yeah, well, it sounds really exciting.
It's changed a lot since I've been gone, in that there's new people there. Also, it's even more corporate than ever. I think there's even more layers of development people and more executives than ever. So that slows things down too. You just have to kind of get each step of the way. You have to get another thing kind of checked off before you can move on. And in the sense that when I started Hey Arnold in 1995, actually 94 was when I made that pilot. Things happened a little faster then, because there weren't nearly as many people working at Nickelodeon.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've got quite. So, I'm assuming. Well, mind you, going back to what you said before, unless you're, part of the team that develops SpongeBob SquarePants, obviously, there's really no such thing as a job for life, is there? Pretty much now, given the way things are going. So,
yeah.
I mean,
and certainly for me. I mean, some people can get a job and they can work in a department at Nickelodeon, and they just work. They're paid weekly, and they just come in and do the same job year after year. But in my case, it's job by job. As soon as a show is over, it's like, well, clean out your office and get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Now, the next question was going to be from, I will give him a mention, Joshua, because he's a big fan of the show, and he says, question for Craig, how's things going with the new show Nickelodeon? And we've already pretty much explained that, so I just want to give him a shout out and just let him know. Okay, this one's from Snaky. He asks, hey Craig, who does Sid exactly like? And he's asking, and he must be on his hands and knees.
I don't know, man. Sid, all the boys liked Lila, and I don't remember Sid kind of declaring for anybody else.
I mean, there were some pictures like Rhonda that he had in some places. I remember.
Right, and he hits on Ruth at the dance. That was pretty good too. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I
We
mean,
had-
he was
I think-
he was dead
I
man
think Sid's
walking
kind
in
of
that
a player.
situation.
You know, he's playing the whole field and it doesn't have anyone specific in mind.
Oh man. I tell you what, that's the fun thing about Hey Arnold. Just these even the little things that just make me chuckle. It's so hilarious. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Okay, do apologize if I don't pronounce your name correctly. Pronouncing names is not my thing. So Nella Chario, she asks, I'd like to know a little bit more about the spin-off series, The Patakis, what it was supposed to be about, and why it didn't happen.
Well, the Patakis we've talked a lot about in chats, and I think I'm not surprised either because seeing the Arnold kids as teenagers is just a naturally very appealing idea, and a lot of people have written volumes of stuff about them as teenagers, as fanfics and stuff, and I would say probably the Patakis would be the thing that most people would like to see happen next, of all the different possibilities. And I pitched it at the end of the run after they'd ordered 100 episodes, and they told me there wasn't going to be another season. I tried to think of anything that I could do with the whole Hey Arnold universe that they would be interested in continuing with. And so I said, well, what if we pitched a whole other version of the series and focused on Helga? And the reason I did that too was Helga was kind of emerging as almost virtually the star of the series by 100 episodes, and just because we wrote so many Helga episodes, and whenever we wanted to do we were just always trying to develop her character and her family because they were so fun. All four Patakis are really fun. I love Olga because she's so over the top and a perfect character for Helga to be mad at and to hate, even irrationally. Because Olga really is actually fairly innocent. She's not that bad of a person, but she's just so obnoxious to Helga. and Bob and Miriam were such a work in progress because their marriage seemed to be so terrible, and as in those 100 episodes, we tried to develop it and not have it stay put, but have Miriam kind of trying to discover herself. Miriam's like the ultimate character of like potential that just isn't being, she's got all this unrealized potential, and there's so much to find out about her. Like why does she behave like that? So anyway, I thought it would be great to do a whole series about that family. And then I thought I'd have Arnold temporarily out of the picture by having him living somewhere else at that point, and the two of them carrying on this relationship long distance by writing to each other, and that seemed really fun too. So in our original pitch of the Patakis, Helga, it's sort of like an epistolary novel where each episode would start with her writing to Arnold, and then we'd see the episode, and then we'd come back to her in her room, finishing another letter, and then she would not mail it to Arnold. She'd put it in an envelope and stamp it, and then instead of taking it to the mailbox, she would just like put it somewhere and file it away. And so there was all that kind of tragedy. Helga's such a great character, and I thought that would be fun. It would be a cool thing to do. It didn't go because the various other MTV networks venues like Nick at Night and MTV, and it wasn't right for them. And so I went to each place and talked to them about it and pitched and stuff, and we wrote a pilot. We didn't make a pilot. And then it didn't go. So it's just like at that point things were just sort of finishing for me at Nickelodeon, and in a way I just felt like that whatever it was I was bringing that they weren't interested in. And so I thought, well, in general, like I didn't pursue any of those things any further because when people want stuff, then it goes, and when they don't want it, it doesn't. And I can tell how that stuff is playing, and that's what's really amazing now. It's been about 14 years ago that was going on. It's now, by the time it's been 15 years since I really kind of finished up over at Hey Arnold.
Yeah.
We'll be doing new stuff, and it'll be really great because things have changed. Even the team of execs over in the TV movie department where I'm developing my projects, there's 3 execs that were kids watching Hey Arnold, and now they're on the TV movie development team at Nickelodeon. So
Yeah.
it's really kind of awesome. All these people at Nickelodeon now are like, hey, I grew up on Hey Arnold. Why don't we do shows like that again? And specifically, why don't we reboot Hey Arnold and make more episodes? So things have changed.
Yeah, I wanted to ask. I mean, when Hey Arnold came to an end, I mean, obviously there was Doug as well that went in where it was on Nickelodeon, but then that somehow went over to Disney. I mean, I don't know how to explain that. I mean, in a way,
Yeah,
but I mean,
I don't know how that worked out
Yeah.
because there was in some way the company that produced Doug had some kind of independence where they could sell it. My understanding about taking a show to another network is generally you have to make some kind of deal with the company that used to run it and basically buy out the project from them for some kind of fee. And generally the buyout fee would be however much they had invested in it, which in the case of making seasons of a TV show is millions and millions of dollars. So that's, you know what I mean? That's partly why you can't just say, well, now I'll take Hey Arnold and do it somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, because the story that I heard about brand spanking new Doug was that they basically changed up the show, and so basically Doug had more hair or whatever, and the family was completely different.
That's
characters changed around. Yeah, I know. It's like, was there ever a temptation to say, to go over Disney and say, well, if we just change up things around, and maybe you could possibly get Hey Arnold and maybe like rename the show or something like that. I mean, was there ever that temptation to go to another network and say, I've always got the successful show?
Not for me. Just I felt like the world I'd made for Arnold was what it should be, and so it's hard to picture just changing the names of stuff. And yet, I know what you mean. That does come up from time to time. You have an idea for a show, and you realize that you've developed it as far as you can with somebody. Yeah. It definitely, that's a temptation. But since Arnold existed, and there were so many episodes, and so it was such a detailed world, I like there's something about it that I really like, just leaving it as it is.
Yeah.
It's really cool to have the 100 half hours on DVD, because I look at it and I go, there it is, it completely exists. And it's so detailed and rich that it kind of even surprises me. I just go, wow, look at all that stuff we put in there.
I'll tell you what, Craig, the minute those DVDs came out in America, I immediately imported them, and they're currently on my shelf at the moment behind me. So, also there's
Isn't it nice? You know what I love about the DVDs? The entire episode is shown in its entirety, including the end credit sequence, which we used to really lavish a lot of care in those end credit sequences. We did so many remixes, and sometimes I'd be like, oh, this show's running long. How can I keep this scene? And I go, maybe I can play it right into the credits. I mean, if you remember the one where, was it the Big Sis episode where Helga, Olga, and Lila go for a boat ride?
Yeah.
And they're singing Moonlight Bay. That one, we ran that into the credits, and then at the very end of the credits, Olga goes, oh, that's Helga, and it's like this little moment that is meant to be like, and then like a minute later, we'll have Olga realize that Helga jumped overboard, and so those are the kind of jokes that you can do when you have control of the episode all the way to the last second of credits, and then before the half hour ends. That somewhere in the late '90s when we were making the shows, more and more networks started to take their end credits and kind of collapse them into a little tiny postage stamp in the corner of the screen, and then promote the next show. And when that started to happen, I was like, wait, we've got these custom credits at the end that have some kind of payoff, and you completely ruined that. You just clobbered it with, announcements about the next thing, and it's terrible now. Not to mention that, like, I get a head credit, at the front of the show, you see that it's my show, but all those other people that work on it and who do a huge contribution to the show, their credit now, you can't even read it, and someone's blabbing about something else over it. It's a mess. So anyway, I love that.
It's like, Hey Arnold episode ends, right? And then you want to listen to like either the music and the credits, because the the end sequence for the journals I really like, and the
Yeah.
end
Oh,
sequence for
exactly. That had really custom credits.
yeah, it did. And then you'd have that, and then it would disappear into a corner, and it's like, okay, coming up next on Nickelodeon, it's 6.5 hours of torture of some SpongeBob SquarePants. It's like,
Yeah, it's and it's been that way ever since the '90s. It's the world we live in. And so anyway, end credits are really cool. It's nice for the people who worked on it. In the second half of the whole 100 episodes, the last 50 or so, I would do a special thanks card at the very end. Variously, thanking the people who were an influence on the show, or particularly important to that episode. So that stuff's really cool, and I would just tell everybody, go get the DVDs.
Cool. Let's move on to the next question, which is from Marlena Mook. She asks, how did you come up with the idea for Arnold's head?
Well, Arnold started out I first created Arnold in 1988, and at that point I had just moved to Los Angeles, and I had been working on the Penny cartoons for Pee-wee's Playhouse, and the Penny cartoons were they were claymation, just like what I had been doing in Portland before that. All through the 80s, I was a clay animator doing stop-motion animation. But Penny was new. Penny was really different. Penny was shot on glass with a camera up above it, and she was basically didn't have to have an armature. Her character was made of clay that could just lie on the glass, and so she seemed really great, kind of weightless, and could hop around and do all this really cool stuff. And I really liked that technique. So anyway, I was so influenced by that flat, clay style of the Penny cartoon that when I designed Arnold, I was working in that flat mode, and so I just was cutting out funny shapes, and I really liked the football shape. The thing I liked best about the football shape is I could put the eyes kind of way out on the sides, and it was an inspired design. What can I say? I mean, I really can tell you that over the years, what I love most about making a cartoon show of my own characters is generally I learned to draw the main characters pretty well, where I can draw them quickly. And if I draw them on a chalkboard, and if I'm talking to kids in a school, or if somebody asks me to give them an autograph, it's really easy to draw a little Arnold in there. And so it's the character I've probably drawn more than any other character. And I also I play the game Draw Something, and I draw Arnold's all the time because people that are playing Draw Something with me are generally Arnold fans. And so I'll try to, when I'm answering the word, it's a word puzzle, that you're just trying to draw. And
Yeah.
I'll just pick a word that I can easily make an Arnold situation, and then I post those. I realize at this point I've posted about 300 by now. Pictures from my Draw Somethings. I'll just do a screen capture when I'm done, and then I'll post it on Instagram. So anybody who wants to see what's new with Hey Arnold and me should just follow me on Instagram, because I'm constantly putting up my Draw Somethings. And it's funny. It's just like how I'm doing a quick, quite simple. That drawing program on Draw Something is not complex, and so just like a simple color drawing of a scene from Hey Arnold, and it'll be generally I find myself drawing Arnold the most, then Helga, then Gerald, and so on, Phoebe, and I draw them over and over again, and so it's just funny. The Arnold design is just one of those things that I'm really glad I did it whenever that was, 1988, because it's a really an easy thing to draw and very distinctive. People can tell it's Arnold from a mile away.
Yeah, I mean, you cast your mind back to 1997, and would you ever have thought you would be doing things like Instagram or Draw Something or something like that?
No, I think that I was just saying that when I was talking to my wife about that, how I realized that I had more than 300 of these drawings, Hey Arnold themed Draw Somethings that I had saved and put on my iPad. The next time I go down to the Nickelodeon, and I'll flip through it with them and show them all these pictures, just to say, this is currently how I'm drawing, all the Arnold characters. And it all has happened in a way where now I can't even remember what it was like when I wasn't, using Facebook, using Instagram, and basically, it's a feed that you just kind of, once you get used to it, you just keep, I'm constantly put stuff up on both of those feeds because it's fun. It's fun to do that. It's a way that I stay in touch with my friends. I have some good friends that that I communicate with on that, and then of course there's a lot of people that I don't know. But it's a fun way. It's a fun way to meet people too. The artists that are posting on a daily basis to all their different Instagram feeds. I have met so many local artists that are really good because of the social networks. So it's a really cool way for us to find people, and it's a great way now. You know, a lot of these people that are posting their drawings, they're going to get careers. You know, it's 10 years ago this didn't exist, and now people will see their work and they'll hire them and they'll work on shows, and people will get shows because of this. So it's the new medium to show off art, and there's a lot of them, of course. There's Flickr and Pinterest and all these different ways that people.
I don't know if you've heard of DeviantArt. I mean, have you? Are you surprised
you're
not?
I've my friends, the Medinas, Janelle Medina, who has she and Ko Kinako, the two friends that made. I think I found them on Facebook, or they found me. That made that wonderful Arnold calendar last year. They were just on DeviantArt, and I love. Once I found Janelle's page, and there was all this great stuff, and she was basically posting tons of other people's work, and so you in one kind of page you could flip through and see all this fan art. And it's great. It's incredible.
So you quite. Have you never been tempted yourself to go on DeviantArt yourself and post up some stuff or anything, or is that?
It's interesting. Like I don't know why I landed at the things that I did, but it seems like there's so much energy just to do Facebook and Instagram that I'm like, that's enough for me, because they have these people have really encouraged me to start a Tumblr account or something. And I can't be bothered at this point. There's just too much to do. Like I said, this is the busiest I've ever been in my whole life. So there's too much to do. There's not enough hours in a day.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next question, and this is from Mimo. I think it's a she. She asks, would the Patakis ever become a functional family?
Yeah, I think they would. I think they're such a fun work in progress that I would like to see all those characters become redeemed. Bob learns how to, be a little bit more sensitive and not be a blowhard, and he, gets to know Helga, and they
cut down on red meat.
Gets good. And the same with Miriam. Miriam, gets over her alcohol problem and, gets the job she needs or whatever it is that she needs to do that taps her creativity. And she works it out with Helga too. And then Helga and Olga, when kids are siblings in childhood, they might really hate each other, and then when they're adults, they might realize that they're all they have, and their relationships get better. And I think that happens all the time, and it would be fun to do that with those characters too.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder about. What would be the best way of basically solving all the Patakis' potential problems?
Well, it's interesting because
we're not resorting to that. Okay.
I think that the main thing about making TV stories is you need conflict, and so that's why dysfunctional situations make for good stories, and where you go back to the status quo where things are kind of messed up. So that's why you don't kind of cure everyone and solve everything. Is that you need to have your conflict to keep your story going.
Well, moving away from conflicts, let's move on to the next question. Nancy Graber, I think it is. Yeah. Again, I apologize. Does Arnold find out Helga is Cecil in the Jungle movie?
Cecile, the girl from Valentine's Day?
Yeah, the Arnold's Valentine
episode.
Oh,
right, sure. I doubt if it'll happen in the Jungle movie, but I have a feeling that in the course of their long and enduring relationship, Arnold will finally understand every last thing about Helga and her secrets. But I think that's sort of a long work in progress. And also, in a way, deep down, I think Arnold must know all this stuff, even after the events that have happened on the series so far. I think he must, in his heart of hearts, already realize that this is what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. So you'll have Arnold, who's probably married to Helga right now, and it's like it should be going as a Helga and saying, "Hey, I found this shoe, a couple of years ago. Do you think you will ever
exactly.
see Cecile again?" It's just and you have Helga's looking at it thinking, "Lame, Arnold." Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, Zach has got another question for us. He says, what are your thoughts on the Hey Arnold fan base, even after the show's been off the air for about 10 years?
Well, like we were saying, the fan base is bigger than ever, and it's more. I don't know. It's cool. What I love is that the fan base has grown up. When I was making Hey Arnold in the first place, Nick Online was really just getting going. It was just kind of in its infancy, and we had chat, message boards, and kids could write in, and I would read them. I thought it was really fun to see what kids were asking. And what's funny is, 7, 8, 9-year-olds sending their posts, they would read like little telegrams. They'd be all in caps and barely punctuated. And in fact, I have one on my wall that says, "Arnold is my favorite. Helga is too bossy. When will they get together?" And it was all misspelled and in caps. And I thought, yeah, okay, that's where they're at.
Yeah.
And that was where I
Let's
could see
digitize that
half
stuff.
of the questions were like, "Where's Arnold's parents?" And what's his last name? And so what I love is from these little telegrams to now, when people whose work I really admire are writing as journalists, and they're writing long, thoughtful pieces about the series and what it means. That is it's incredibly gratifying. It's really validating to see people grow up and go to college and learn journalism, and then write about Hey Arnold. You know what I mean? It's great.
Have you ever read like the analysis pieces that I remember you saying like, oh, you'd like do like 15-minute episodes, and then someone like writes like
then
something.
you get more than 15 minutes worth of analysis. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is
totally.
Isn't it?
And that's been going on for a long time. I remember reading that kind of stuff, the discussions about the episodes in various fan pages and Arnold sites even more than 10 years ago. So it has been going on for a long time, but somehow it seems to be it's at a kind of a high point now. So it's nice. It's the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do you think social media has played a massive role in expanding the Hey Arnold base?
I do. And so since it exists out there, and it's probably led by Facebook, probably the biggest influence of all, I try to act as a kind of a curator of all the Arnold lore, and kind of keep putting images out there and thoughts about this and that. And fans use my wall to put up the like I say, BuzzFeed or any of those other any of the other social network sites that basically do like top 10 lists and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So whenever something comes out, a fan will post it, and so you can always see that people are talking about it.
Yeah. Let's move on to another question. It is CM Giltanio. I think we might have a CM Punk fan here. I think from WWE, well, not WWE anymore, UFC, if you've been following things there. But this is hi Craig B. Have you ever get tempted to read some Hey Arnold fan fiction?
There's so much of it
Yeah.
that I'm tempted to read it, but I kind of. There's too much to read, and so I it's just like, and again, this is the time in my life where I'm so busy that I just busy with my own stuff. But also, I'm now feeling like with fan fiction, I really feel like I don't want to read it because as I work on future Arnold stories, I don't want to. I don't, you know what I mean? Something like, for example, like how the Jungle Movie script would go. I don't really want to read what fans are writing about that because I don't want them to feel like they had the idea first. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and probably that's going to happen a lot on that stuff because people have been speculating about how that was going to go based on what I said about my own thoughts about the Jungle Movie for the last 15 years, and so it seems good for me to just kind of steer clear of fan fiction. For the time being.
Yeah. Well, if you want a summary of what at least I've seen, I mean, it's evolving. I mean, before, you'd get basically you get fan fiction of just like episode ideas and things like that, and then all of a sudden, the last thing that I've been following recently has been like Helga and Arnold have been married and now have like 4 kids, and like so basically it's like, and Arnold's just being driven crazy by the fact that he has
really
this
funny.
really
it's
wacky
cool.
family.
I totally think it's great. People who want to write fan fiction about it should. And besides, we all know this. It's speculative fiction. And so that there ends up being all these volumes of speculative fiction, and then the actual thing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it just reflects how much passion people have for these characters. So it's totally great.
Yeah, I mean, how do you feel that it's not only is it basically it's the fan fiction now starting to basically inspire other characters that not just have aren't just like lazily written, basically having like the traits of like Arnold and Helga, like Helga's son or whatever. Basically, they're kind of like evolving into their own, if you will, and basically getting their own fan bases. Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
and I would hope that that when I finally do put out something. That people aren't like, oh, I thought that fan fiction was better. I hope they like what I come up with. That's all I could say.
I think Harry Potter. I think J.K. Rowling and probably some Peter Jackson and various other people we sympathize with. I can write something better, crowd. Oh boy. Okay, this one is from Sarah Gulen. This one asks, what is your favorite Hey Arnold episode?
Favorite? Well, I have a lot of favorites. I've probably talked about Helga on the Couch, just because Helga on the Couch is nice for me because it's really a story about my relationship with that character. Because people wondered as kids, they were like, why is Helga so mean? How come she's got such a problem with telling Arnold how she really feels? And naturally a kid would want to know the answers to those questions. And Helga on the Couch is the kind of story that could only happen after making years and years of that series. Helga had emerged as my favorite character to write for because Franny was such a funny voiceover actress and so capable of delivering anything that I wrote that I thought, and Steve and I were at that point, for years we'd been coming up with how can Helga confess to someone? You know what I mean? And all those are favorites of mine. I wrote the one where she leaves the message on Arnold's message machine when she's high on laughing gas at the dentist. And Steve wrote School Play where she confesses to Lila. And I can't remember. I think I wrote is that Love Potion? That's a different one. Yeah. Helga's Love Potion where she kind of tells Phoebe, but it's all coded like she's talking about ice cream.
Yeah.
and on and on and on. And so Helga on the Couch was just yet another one where it's like Helga will confess to the psychiatrist in a huge blowout, and we tried each time to make it bigger than the last. I would say the confession in School Play to Lila is big, very big, and very funny. Remember, she does that kind of crazy about the boy thing, and then she turns around and Lila goes, "I kind of had a feeling that you liked him," and then when she tells Dr. Bliss, it's so huge that car alarms go off, and Bliss says, "Now we're getting somewhere." and then she tells Arnold in the movie, and then she's finally telling him face to face.
What the great thing about that thing was, now we're getting somewhere, and because it's kind of like the whole fan base kind of just said that because it's like saying, finally we're going up to that point.
Isn't that fascinating? I mean, I can't believe how resonant that was. It's a lot of fans' favorite episode too, Helga on the Couch, and they say it's like, oh, thank God! Now, finally, this is the thing we've been dying to hear Helga say, and all that backstory where Helga, her parents ignore her as a kid, and she walks to preschool by herself, and she meets Arnold, and all the scenes in the preschool are incredibly resonant for fans because they love it. They're like, look, Arnold's such a sweet boy. He's the first person to say something nice to Helga in her life. And then from there you go, oh, okay, of course. No wonder Helga idolizes him.
Yeah.
And it's cool too. Part of the fun of that was by the time we were that far into the series, I was kind of making Arnold into this kind of little Buddha. He's kind of magical. He's so wise for his years that he's kind of magical, and he can feel things, and he's like super sensitive to other people's feelings, and very kind. And so it was really fun, and then from there it just got kookier and kookier. By the time we did the journal, he's like divine. When he's born, he silences all of nature. So I was kind of me being, I just having fun with the character. I really love Arnold, and he's a fun character. So I was like, well, why not? I'm the one making this show. I'll make him divine. He's a sort of a demigod by the time we get to the journal.
But the great thing, after that, reveal from, in Helga on the couch, and the fact that not only did they leave it at that, they also just, they explain that, she's afraid to tell her feelings because she's afraid she's going to get rejected, and basically the whole world is going to fall apart. So,
right.
She's left on that cliffhanger.
It's okay for you now. You don't have to tell him now. You can tell him when you're ready.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, it's a huge relief, and it's really great. I mean, there's wonderful beats in that story. I love when she leaves and then she runs back and hugs her. It's it's super cute.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the next question. This one's from Ellie. She asks, hi, Craig. What are the most controversial secrets about Hey Arnold, aside from the things we already know, such as Lana Vale?
Wow, okay, so controversial secrets. Well, I would say the fact that one of the things that was just never spoken about on the series was that Miriam was a secret drunk. That probably is the biggest one. Because the other ones were more minor than that. Like Lana Vale was simply a character that we thought it would be funny if there was a slightly, kind of slightly provocative renter in the boarding house that Arnold kind of didn't know how to feel. She made him nervous, and he didn't know, like a 9-year-old's, completely innocent, confusion about Lana Vale. But that was too weird. It when we tried to write it, it seemed funny to us at the time, and then when we tried to make it, the Nickelodeon execs were like, "What? Come on, what is she like?" Hitting on him, and we're like, well, no, not exactly. You know what I mean? So it was too ridiculous for a kid show, and so we just dropped her. We just said, forget it. Let's not even try to do this. That's stupid. And but things like Miriam, that's different. Like I would say the most controversial thing about Hey Arnold is that Helga's home life is so terrible. Bob seems really verbally abusive to Miriam, and he's mean to her. He keeps forgetting who she is. And then by the time we did Helga on the Couch, I thought it was pretty ridiculous to have a preschooler walk to school by herself. But then I thought, oh, what the hell? It really makes my point. Yeah. And so I wanted to show Helga actually walking to preschool by herself, and Tuck boarded that sequence. Tuck Tucker, my supervising director.
It's enjoyable, but it's sad at the same time because
exactly. And that's my favorite thing. It's the thing. I kind of feel like the edge that we have on Hey Arnold, because we're not South Park and we're not Family Guy, and we're making a show for children. But I thought my edge was always to show the really sad and the really funny at the same time. So the dog, that's like, how ridiculous can it be for Helga, her walk to school? It starts raining. She doesn't have a coat.
Yeah.
Her lunch, which Miriam made, so it's probably something ridiculous anyway, like shaving cream. Her lunch gets taken away by a dog who then kicks dirt in her face as he walks away. Then a car goes by and splashes mud and completely covers her in mud. So it's like, oh my God, what a terrible thing. But it's all drawn with a lot of charm, and it's very funny. And then the stuff that happens at the preschool, I think Tim Parsons boarded that section. That's another, really, it's super funny, man, when she kind of knocks Harold over and jumps on his stomach, and suddenly turns into, basically, you watch her like Helga the terror, the toughest kid in school. You sort of see that happen right in front of your eyes, and so
it's kind of like a Darth Vader,
and it's really funny, and it's also I think I don't know. I think about some of my favorite scenes with Helga are always going to be both sad and funny. The scene when Lila first comes to the school, Miss Perfect, and they go to her house, and they're outside the window, and they can hear her crying to her dad, and you realize that they don't even have any food to eat. I mean, God, that's pretty grim.
It is
and
horrible,
then you cut to outside, and Helga starts crying until she becomes hysterical, and Phoebe has to slap her.
Yeah.
That's really funny, and you're flipping back and forth between. I mean, if I watch those episodes now, they actually make me cry because they're so moving, and it, those are all my characters that I really care about. And so I'm really shocked by it. And when I see it, I think, man, that's kind of a tough thing to lay on kids, this entertainment. Except when I hear how strongly and positively they react to it, then I go, okay, well,
Yeah.
they watch it because they want to watch it and they like it.
Cool. Let's move on to another one. This one's actually from Ellie herself again. What up, Nocturnal Ned? At the present, are there something that you want to change on the show, or something you wish you had done on the show?
Something I would change, or that I wish that I had done. Well, it's funny when we were told we weren't going to do any more than the 5 seasons of Hey Arnold. I was like, wait, there's so much more to do. And I guess what I would continue to try to do would be to. I really like the city as a character, and I like the urban adventures, and I would try to keep coming up with more urban adventures where Gerald is the keeper of the tale, and he tells them all the story, and then they go explore it. We had written more ideas for urban adventures that I would definitely return to that, and I would continue to develop the main relationships. Arnold and Helga clearly have to keep their relationship has to keep developing. And Gerald and Phoebe too. Although it's weird because to continue Hey Arnold as a series, I would probably be trying to continue to have them be kids, and so their relationships can't go too much farther yet because they're still children. They're not teenagers, and so it has to be there's a sort of an innocence that it has to continue to have, if that makes any sense. Yeah. And then in terms of like what regrets and stuff, I don't know. We made some good shows and we made some not very good shows. And looking back on them, I'm sort of sorry for the ones that didn't come out so hot, but that's the nature of the work.
I mean, the two episodes I always get negativity over is Arnold Betrays Iggy and New Bully on
That's right.
Yeah. And New Bully on the Block. Those are the two ones I can. Imagine Arnold Betrays Iggy, I can understand, but actually, I'll go on a limb here and say that New Bully on the Block is actually in itself is a good episode because it actually makes us care. The fact that we care so much about these 4th graders getting beaten up by these 5th graders. It makes us. It gives us an emotional attachment to the characters.
I look at that now. I kind of can't believe that, and they were that actually New Bully. The network was pretty mad about that. They're like, what? You're actually showing girls with black eyes. Like they're being hit in the face. And I said, when I look at it now, I'm like, boy, that is pretty grim. And it ends up with all of our main characters hanging from the. I think they hung them up by the backs of their shirts on the goalpost. And it's like, wow, like that is bad. It's almost like a wedgie hanging up there. And, it's quite a violent episode. And so, all I was saying with New Bully on the Block was, and it's also the reason that I even did it was, as each boy who voiced Arnold grew up and they couldn't be Arnold anymore, and all of a sudden they sounded like teenagers, I said, don't worry, I'll bring you back as a teenager. And generally to bring back a teenager meant to bring back a bully. And so it started with Torin, who came back as Wolfgang. And so Wolfgang was the new bully. And then Ludwig is the next bully because Philip had grown up. And so I said, okay, Philip, don't worry, I'll bring you back too, and you can be a teenager too. So then it was like, wow, we got 2 bullies. Then I was like, okay, let's have a story where there's a new bully, and he's the 2 bullies have to kind of duke it out for who gets control of Gerald Field, and basically all the 4th graders.
Yeah.
And that's just basically a cruel story. Now there's 2 bullies, you've got twice as much trouble, and they're fighting, and they're so selfish and kind of unaware that they just kind of use the 4th graders as just toys, just something to amuse them, which is really mean. And so I thought, oh well, I'll just try and write this and see what happens.
Okay.
Which was often what would happen with my story writing. I'd have these characters and I'd just write the next one and see what happened then.
Forgive me in the eyes of the Hey Arnold fans if I commit Hey Arnold heresy or something like that. But I mean, you say that you brought characters back as teenagers and they automatically became bullies. I mean, was there never a chance to basically say to one of them, to like give them like give one of the characters like a mentor, like an older mentor character, or something that basically, say for example, you had Eugene, who was basically unlucky the entire time, and was there never an idea to like say, oh, let's bring in this older mentor. Basically, every time Eugene feels a bit down, we can bring this guy in basically to cheer him back up again.
Yeah, interesting. Well, it's interesting. Arnold had that role where he was the good guy and kind of the only good guy in a way, and so that was part of it. Was that the one who Arnold seemed to be the one who was mentoring everybody. But It's true. I mean, if the series went on and on, I'm sure you always just try to develop stuff so that you can create situations that can go on and they can develop, and I'm sure it would have gone a lot of different ways.
Okay, well, tell you what, I think my time as a Hey Arnold writer probably would probably better being shut down now. But let's move on to the next question. This is from. I'm just having a look at the ones now. This one's from Connor. He asks, was Hey Arnold named after somebody?
Oh, well, when I created Arnold in 1988, my wife Lisa and I made a list of all the family names of both sides of both of our families, and we made a big list. And Lisa has an Uncle Arnold who lives in Washington State. Lived at Mukilteo. No, not yeah, he did. He lived at Mukilteo, Washington for most of his life, and was a principal at one of the grade schools in Everett, I believe. And so Arnold Wiggum, who and Chief Wiggum on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Wiggum is the family name on that side.
Oh, wow.
So that Matt used a family name too for Chief Wiggum, but Arnold that's actually where it came from. Even though Arnold does not resemble Arnold Wiggum at all, but it was just a name that we liked, and so that's where that came from.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Connor's next question, which is, why does the screen go blue between Olga and Helga when at the end of Olga Comes Home episode in season 1?
Oh yeah. That's so funny. I'm glad you asked.
Mm-hmm.
It's really funny. When we were finishing that episode, as you remember, that's when Olga first arrives. And we were here's what I love about that one was that Olga gets a B plus, and it just wrecks her. She just takes to her bed and cries for days.
Yeah.
That's just so absurd and funny that we just thought, what a funny story idea. And that Helga did it, of course. Helga changes the grade, and it's kind of the worst thing Helga's ever done, because it just like the whole family is in mourning now because Olga's taken to her bed, and it goes great for Helga for a while. And then she starts to feel bad about it. So, and I love that Helga has that wonderful dream where Arnold comes to her as the voice of reason, and she's in that like Dali landscape. It's really fun stuff. Arnold comes and says, "Listen, you got to do the right thing. You've done something wrong, and you got to do the right thing." So Helga's having it's an early story about Helga having a crisis of conscience where she really needs to go back and undo it. So she goes into Olga's room and turns off the Mozart and says, "Okay, look. Get out of bed. It was me. I did it. I'll get punished, and I'll be the. And then Olga says, "No, I'm not going to tell Mom and Dad, and I'm going to give you a break." And she says, "Really? Why? What's your angle?" And Olga, for the very first time, tells us, it's not that easy being the perfect one. I feel like a wind-up doll. And you go, oh, okay, so I should sympathize with Olga too. She's kind of under pressure to be this thing that she's not quite sure that she is. She's kind of overachieving because her parents need her to. And the two of them look at each other and it was meant to be, Helga looks at Olga and goes, and the two of them kind of face off, and you think, well, will they be friends or will they be enemies? What's going to happen next? And that's the end of the show. When we made it, we all looked at the cut. This is generally what we do. We get the animation back, and we have our finished episode, and we're looking at it. Then we'll talk about what's working and what isn't working. And generally, I have a chance at that point to work with my editor to change it a little bit, because we can't reanimate it. We don't have a budget for that. We're just basically making them as fast as we can. And then as soon as you're done with that one, you got to go on to the next one. So we're just looking at it going, I remember Jamie Mitchell, who was our supervising director in season 1. Jamie just didn't like it yet. He said, "I don't believe it. That thing you're talking about, where Olga and Helga look at each other and they kind of are they going to be friends or are they going to be enemies? I'm not really seeing that." And I said, "Well, what are we going to do? I mean, that's all we have. We can't like write a new scene, animate a new scene. We have to finish this." And so Jamie said, "I think we should have like a little musical sting, and at that moment that the two of them look at each other, you get some kind of feeling like they're facing off and what's going to happen." So in post, when we were color correcting it and making the final version, I remember Jamie and I sitting there, and he suggested that thing where it kind of goes blue for a second. And when it was done and it played, nobody knew what that meant. And everybody was like, "What the hell was that?" And I said, "I don't know. It was Jamie's idea."
So Jamie did it. Okay.
So, it's just one of those things. And now people, if now they have their answer, what that means is Helga and Olga are facing off and they're like, friend or foe. And that is it. That's all there is to it. It's kind of, it's one of those things. We should have written the scene so they say what you need to know. And then, I don't know. But it is. It's like, you get these 11-minute cartoons and you have only, like each of these episodes, we put it through post and we've got like a week to figure out what we're going to do to finish it.
But in a way, it's a good thing because it leaves the question open-ended. So
I like that too. I think, the characters are very rich and there's a lot going on and there's a lot to think about. And I kind of like people forever trying to understand what they thought they saw. That's my favorite thing about movies and TV is that the ones that make you think and talk about afterwards.
Okay, so just let all the Hey Arnold fans know if if it's not that scene and your screen turns blue, try restarting your computer and I'm sure you'll be fine. I'm bad. I'm sorry, I'm bad with these jokes. I really am. Next question. So Craig Bartlett. This is another one from Connor. Where are the Hey Arnold episode? Which Hey Arnold episodes do you? Well, mind you, we've already asked that about Hey Arnold. Which Hey Arnold episodes you regret doing? I'm sure we'll move on to the next one. This one is from. Okay, I think she's probably from. So yeah, I'm just gonna have a look and see where she's from. She's from Latin America. I can tell that far. So her name is Sugigumi Y Masuni. Please congratulate him on trying to pronounce that. Another question: is there any character who inspired you in real life?
Oh, you mean that a real life person who became a character?
Yeah, I'd imagine that's what she's asking. Is there a character who inspired you in real life? Were you ever inspired by a character?
Yeah, that sort of worked their way into the show. Yeah. I mean, it's really like so much of it. The characters on Hey Arnold were like, Grandma and Grandpa are so different from my actual grandparents because, there's so much more going on, and they're kind of like superheroes almost. So I always think of that as an example of how different the cartoon characters are from the real life characters. And I had parents the whole time I was growing up, so that's not like Arnold's situation. But it's really more just in general like the way the girl characters were like all the girls that I had a crush on but didn't like me back, or vice versa, that had a crush on me and that I didn't. And so I would just sort of take all the ways that if you took all of those different girls and you put their traits into one, then you get Helga. And Helga is so much, I don't know, she's so much more interesting than any of the kids I knew in grade school. So you know what I mean? They kind of grow and become bigger than life. And I've the friends that I had and the girls that I liked, none of them were as nuts as Helga, or as and there was the bullies that picked on me. I didn't get to know them at all. And look at Harold. By the time we did 100 half hours of Hey Arnold, Harold had become this incredibly funny and interesting character. So you know what I mean? Like the real life influences were actually quite a bit more boring than the characters on Hey Arnold.
Well,
not to in any way,
Yeah.
Put down the people I grew up with. It's just that cartoons, you get to really go crazy with cartoons.
Yeah, well, in a way, isn't it kind of? Well, I mean, even if it does feel a bit insulting, isn't it kind of a bit of a compliment, really? If you can be, if you're considered that much of a character that you can be basically crazy into a cartoon.
Well, it is. It's like, to me, Thank goodness I had a childhood that wasn't perfect, and that I I felt like I was always on the outside, and kind of awkward, and didn't understand, and couldn't get it right, because that's what drives people to write these stories. All the writers that I know, they had they none of them are like, hey, childhood was awesome, I loved it, I was happy all the time. Those people don't become writers.
Okay, so that was the last question, and so I want to thank all the Hey Arnold fans for pitching your questions. I'm just wondering how long we've actually been going on for now. That's an hour and 20 minutes, so it was,
Good. I'm glad. I'm
good.
glad. Yeah, those were great questions.
Yeah.
and it was fun talking about it, as usual.
I mean, did you? Even to this, obviously now you still get these questions, and they just keep coming by the barrel full. How do you feel that Hey Arnold has got to such a point that basically there's just this, everyone's so still enthralled in the world that that you created with Hey Arnold and everything. So
I'm really glad, and like I said, it seems like there's more interest from people who grew up on it and are now adults than ever. And the social media, and the fact that everybody goes online and gets their entertainment from all these different websites that do the top 10 lists and all that kind of entertainment analysis, it's really gotten it to a lot of interest. And Nickelodeon really has noticed, and they really are interested in seeing what we could do next with it. And I'm very glad that relationship's going again. I'm really excited about what we're going to do. And I can't really say yet, because it's since these stories are being developed, but I am happy to say that I'm back. We got stuff going on, and look for it, because we'll do something and it'll be awesome. And the Arnold stuff totally lives on, and
yeah,
it's partly because of all this interest from these fans, and I really appreciate it.
I was wondering if I could finish off with this last thing that, when I was talking to Justin Shankero, there was rumors flying around the internet about all sorts of discussions about Hey Arnold at Nickelodeon. Is there any interest right now for Nickelodeon to reinvest in the Hey Arnold character in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, the things that we're trying to do are to find the right way to reboot the series so that it could keep going in some future form, and that's what we're working on. And it's going great, and I'll have more news, but I don't want to jinx it. I want to see exactly what it is that we're doing for sure before I talk about it. And I would say when I have a delivery date, when I know something's going to come out on the air, would be when I would be finally ready to go. This is what it is. And even then, I wouldn't want to wreck the story by spoiling it. So but I could, as I know more, I'll totally let you know.
Yeah, just out of vision. I know you can't go into too much detail about your conversations with Nickelodeon. Obviously, that's got to be all confidential and everything like that. But is it one of the when you're approaching a TV studio, is it one of those situations where everyone has kind of their own different opinions of basically what the subject matter should be? Yeah,
and they're kind of, the thing you have to remember with Nickelodeon is they still, even though they acknowledge all this interest from the people who are too old for it, and you know what I mean, they're really their bread and butter at Nickelodeon is kids 6 to 11. That's who their advertisers put ads up for, and so that's where their money comes from. So to them, they're like, well, what is that audience, 6 to 11, the people who are supposed to be watching this network, and what are they looking for? And so. That's an ongoing discussion, talking about the way kids change. In my opinion, kids, they change and they stay the same.
Yeah.
It's a different world by far now than it was when in 1995. But so what? Kids still like those shows, even if they're 15 years old. They're almost 20 years old, and they still love them. They still get it. So I think in a way, I just try to make entertainment that's pretty timeless. I think certain aspects of being a kid are going to stay the same forever, and making a show that's sort of emotional and, kind of slightly bluesy and, a little bit about being sad, and trying to kind of figure it out and trying to be a good person in a kind of a messed up world. I think that'll stay interesting forever. And so all I would say is that as we try to develop it and figure out how to take it to the next step, how can I keep it true to that basic bedrock feeling that I always had about what it was like to be a kid. So, I'll try to do my best to honor that, and also those episodes exist. There's a canon of 100 half hours. That exists. That's a fact, and so it can't ever be too different from that, because that's what it is. That's the world that I made. So
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm quite surprised because it's like, I mean, I don't want to knock anything that, is currently on the air at the moment, but, I mean, if you look at, SpongeBob SquarePants or, Fanboy and Chum Chum and some of the other cartoons, and then you align them against, cartoons like Doug and Rugrats and Hey Arnold, I mean, if you ask me in 10 or 20 years' time, what cartoons are we still going to be watching? There's part of me that still believes we're still going to be watching Rugrats, Hey Arnold, and Doug. I mean, that's probably because I'm a 90s kid, that's...
Exactly. It's the context of like where you were when you first really fell in love with cartoon shows.
Yeah,
and I think that's great. I think there's room for all kinds of stuff. It's a really great era in animation where there's just so much going on. And also one of the things I always keep in mind, and kind of to answer the people's questions today about episodes that I didn't like or that I thought were not so hot or wished I hadn't made, even the ones that I really thought came out kind of crap, and I looked at them and I was like, oh, boy, that was a Shaggy Dog story, man, what a mess. And we kind of remember that we fought about it, and the art didn't come out the way I wanted, or I was frustrated about something. You know what? Somebody, that's their favorite episode.
Yeah.
And they go, that's a perfect one. That's exactly what, to me, that's sums up Hey Arnold. And so I go, oh, okay. You know what? There's a lot of different ways to make entertainment, and there's people have a lot of different favorite things that are it's not for me to say. So
yeah.
I don't know. I'll just keep trying to make cartoons do the best I can, and just hope that more hit than miss.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like some of the creators that I grew up with. With who created all these cartoon shows in the 90s, and even people who tell me like, oh, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, but the 90s, oh man, you see just the shows that they had there. I mean, it's like they really hit the spot, and even some people from lesser decades even concede that oh, maybe the people who live grew up with in the 90s had a you look at all these shows that even I relate to. In my 20s, let alone all the kids that relate to, like Ren and Stimpy, for example, and stuff like that. It's like it's
well,
it seems
that's good. I'm glad. I'm glad. It really was what a wonderful opportunity to be part of that time, because it was a really good time.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that say it's a golden age that we really wish that came back, and in a way, I do and I don't, because obviously if let's say for example all the good times did come back in the in 2015 onward to like 2025. I mean, it's like it's kind of going to make the 90s make that a little less special, if you ask me. I mean, so I think it's just nice that there's a nice little special era between 1990 to 2004 that we had, and it's just been really special to be part of that. So. Anyway, we're going to wrap up now. So, Craig, once again, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been brilliant, and it's always really great to talk to you. And this being the fourth time,
nice to talk to you too. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we'll do is I'm going to wrap it up now, and we're going to continue on with the Christmas special, and we're going to do some very exciting stuff, and this has just been one part of it. So, Craig, once again, thank you very much for coming on the show, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you too, and everybody out there.
Cool. Thanks, Craig.
All right. See you later.
Bye.